Welcome back to Ageless Athlete, where we speak with some of the world's best adventure sports legends and unravel their stories and learn their secrets in our own quest towards ageless performance in the things we love. Today, we are nestled in the heart of Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, breathtaking landscape that's become a haven for mountain bikers and outdoor enthusiasts. We are joined by a legend of mountain biking, Jeremiah Bishop. He's not just any rider, he's earned the title of the most winning US national bike stage racer, a testament to his grit and dedication to pushing limits. But Jeremiah's journey goes to beyond podium finishes. Think about the incredible feats he's accomplished. A 16-time member of the USA cycling national team, a Pro American Games gold medalist, twice national champion, and winner of the world's most challenging stage races, including some pretty famous ones. I could go on for a long time, but Jeremiah is not just a gifted athlete. He's also a remarkable storyteller. He has a knack for bringing his experiences to life with vivid detail and genuine gusto. Whether he's describing the grueling climbs of a mountain race, the awe inspiring landscapes he's encountered the world over, or the mental struggles he's overcome, he draws you in and makes you feel like you're right there with him. What's even more inspiring is his combination of confidence and humility. He speaks with authority about his sport and his achievements, approachable and genuinely excited to share his knowledge with others. He's created an outstanding career, seamlessly blending his athletic prowess with filmmaking, coaching, and advocacy. He's turned his love for mountain biking into a multifaceted life, inspiring others to get out there. Friends, if you have been with the show for this long, if you have been inspired by some of the incredible athletes, if you could leave a quick review on your app, do it right now, please. It takes like 30 seconds. Just rate the show, leave a quick review, and then come right back. It would mean so much to me personally. A huge thank you to Matt Eggleton for introducing me to Jeremiah. Matt, thanks a lot. If you guys have not listened to Matt's interview on the podcast just a few episodes ago, you have missed out. Please go back. Matt is a legend on his own right. Okay, let's roll with Jeremiah Bishop. Jeremiah, hey, great to have you on Ageless Athlete. To start off with, please tell us, where are you from? Where are you right now? And what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Well, I'm ashamed to admit I had some cookies and some coffee to start with, and then a bagel. So it was not the healthiest breakfast. Thanks so much for having me on. But to start off, that's a pleasure to chat and talk about the journey as an athlete. I'm here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. I've lived here for about 26 years. And I moved out here to pursue a career in mountain bike racing. Yeah, I just love exploring. And there's about 4 million acres of national forest and national park to either side of the Shenandoah Valley.
I never realized that Harrisonburg, Virginia was such an epicenter for mountain biking. I used to live in the East Coast in North Carolina, and I mean, the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachia are, absolutely gorgeous. But I didn't know that, particularly for mountain biking, it was such a hotbed.
It goes and goes. And this particular area is home to a lot of trail angels, a lot of trail elves that just Kush. I mean, it's a trail building culture here. So there's a lot of, stoke and inspiration on making it better, improving the trails, building new trails. There's a lot of lesser known events and barbecues and bike clubs, and the scene's really good, and I think if you look at the places that are hotbeds for sports, outdoor sports, they're the places that have these really passionate people pushing and sharing right? And that's like what drew me to Harrisonburg. So you had like a core crew, and they would just be like, "Hey, you want to go out and do some trail work? We're having a barbecue afterward. We're doing this race next weekend. We got this like camp out, and we're doing all this." And I was like, "Sure, okay." And then I just had a blast. I had a great time visiting. And really, if you look at that, that advocacy and that effort to make it better, leave it better than you found it, that was really close to my heart. That's part of my ethos is like, hey, if you're going to go and play outdoors, leave it better than you found it, and then it becomes a resource that expands and grows and more people can enjoy it. Kids can get into it. So yeah, I mean, it's lesser known than Durango or Brevard, or Santa Cruz, but it's coming up. It's really becoming more known for cycling, which is awesome.
It sounds like a beautiful place, and trail angels and trail elves. I love those expressions. I love these kinds of towns, and I also love what you said about how the how this place is maybe not quite as um, mature in its stature as a mountain biking center as the other ones are, which in some ways I think makes it even more special because then you have a chance to shape it closer
Yeah,
to closer to your ideal and your dream place to inhabit. Taking a quick step back,
sure.
please tell us, Jeremiah, who are you? What do you do? Talk to us about
Wow.
what are
That's
you all
that's
about?
I am I don't know, I guess you'd want to call it a career cyclist. I've been doing everything from consulting. I started my career as an athlete and coach, and then it's evolved into a storyteller, and into a industry expert, really. So I've done quite a bit of different things, wear different hats. Like I said, I've been coaching for 15 years under Bishop training, maybe 16 years at this point. And my competitive juices are still flowing. Like I'm doing Unbound, which is the hardest gravel race in the world next weekend. So packing up my bike this afternoon to fly out for that, and still actively competing. I still have a solid foot in the door with that. I'll be doing Belgian Waffle Ride in North Carolina in a few weeks. So still love to compete, but that's maybe taking 60% of my job, maybe 50% of my job now. And the other parts are really reaching people. So I do a lot of content on social media, whether it be Instagram or blogs, podcasts like this one, and then pursue media opportunities that are helpful, yeah, and telling the story, inspiring people, and getting them out there. Because we all, as athletes, we need inspiration. We need to move. We need to think of new places to ride. And, part of that is just looking for projects that want to support my mission, which is to get more people out, more people riding, more people exercising, taking care of their bodies, taking care of, themselves, and keeping active. And that's led me to some really cool partnerships. I'm working with PJM Cycling, which is kind of like the global directory for bicycle hill climbs. And if you look at PJM Cycling, it had primarily been road bike hill climbs. And they have thousands of hill climbs documented all over the world. And it's a resource that people look to, say, if they're going to France to climb the Tour de France greatest hill climbs.
Taking a quick minute to announce a great giveaway. I was at the Outside Festival this past weekend, and I happened to try this delicious backpacking meal from Good Detour. Delicious vegetarian food inspired by South Asian flavors. I tried a couple of things and I was hooked. Please look at the show notes as well as the Instagram feed for a giveaway to win a gift bag from Good Detour, and there will also be a coupon to get a great discount. Okay, back to the show. Let's go back to your early days. I think the genesis of all of this was likely your passion and your talent for mountain biking. How did you get started? Were you a natural athlete? When did you realize that you have a knack for this?
Well, oddly, not really a natural athlete. Like, I mean, when they were picking the basketball teams in high school, it was like me and the kid with crutches. Which one do we take? Well, the kid with the crutches isn't going to mess us up. And but Bishop, I don't know. He might just throw the ball off into the bleachers. So anyway, so I was not very savvy when it came to ball sports. You know, I didn't really grow up with like a dad throwing a ball to me, so that I was kind of like it was a little alien to me. But once I got on a mountain bike at 16 and started to rip up the hills and carve down the hills and explore and kind of push myself, something clicked. I mean, it was like I don't know. It was like one of those moments where Spider-Man gets bit by the spider. It was just like, whoa. Like, it just was my thing. I found out after a couple years of riding and maybe 1 year of dabbling into racing that you can make a career doing it. And I was like, well, that sounds like my jam, And my neighborhood was just a mix of chaos. It was awesome. We had a lot of fun. We were unsupervised kids for the most part during the summer, which meant throwing rocks at the train, shoplifting, mountain biking, camping in the woods. Anything was on the table that was exciting. Unfortunately, of course, without guidance, kids will find things that are exciting that are not good to do. And so I was really lucky to like branch this way instead of that way. And I found a sport that had the greatest people. They were so awesome. I think some of the folks, in my town growing up, they kind of realized like, hey, this kid has no way to get to a car. He's like hitchhiking to races. I'm going to help him out and just give him a lift, or maybe give him some spare tires. And I had some help along the way, there's no doubt. And that's a big part of my giving back to the sport, working with NICA. I'm on the honorary board for the National High School Mountain Bike Association. And a big part of it is because I was one of those kids. I was one of those, kids that just, they need something to focus on. I mean, same thing with adults. I mean, look at adults that don't have, a direction. They lose their energy and lose their excitement. So it's important, kids of any age, I like to say, you need to have a goal. You need to have something that thrills you, something that like gets that sparkle in your eye. And that's a big thing I think is so key, to being an ageless athlete, to sort of speak to your tagline. It's like, I'm just a kid looking for something fun to do next.
Awesome. Tell us, Jeremiah, at the core again is your pursuit of the sport at the highest levels. What kind of mountain biking racing do you specialize in?
That's a good question, but the endurance stuff is the general answer. Stage races. So stage races were probably my very best because they take a lot of cognitive willpower. You have to be able to go day in and day out and keep it together, keep sharp, no mistakes. And at one point I won 10 North American stage races consecutively, doing these long distance stage races. Each day would be like 3 to 4 hours. But yeah, I think the early part of my career, the main part of my career that most people think of was probably anchored around like cross country distance mountain biking. 90 minutes, it was really explosive. Everybody sprints off the line. If you want to get an idea, just go to YouTube and look up on YouTube World Cup mountain bike racing. And the World Cup mountain bike racing is just explosive. So yeah, that was my jam for quite a while. It really takes a lot of technical skill. It's pretty dangerous. There's no two ways about it, because you have the pack and you have a group descending through a rock garden. It's not just you by yourself. It's pretty intense. And I'd say, yeah, it's kind of one of the early extreme sports. It's not really lumped into extreme sports now, but without a doubt, it's definitely pretty intense. It's awesome though. It's really exciting. Just go go go, and then collapse on the ground.
Congratulations on an epic career.
Thank you.
For those of us who haven't experienced it, ultra endurance or these stage races, they can seem almost superhuman. Uh, what is it about the sport? These super long quests, if I may, that draws you in. What is it about these races that keep you hooked? And is there any sort of is this like any kind of special talent that you found in yourself that you were like, hey, this is the ability to endure these kinds of monstrous distances is the superpower I have, and I can really draw upon this and excel in them.
I'd say it's not so much a superpower, but it's something I've honed. So I mean, I was watching this thing on Instagram, and they were kind of talking about the attributes of a champion, and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, well, what they are saying is correct. Is that someone that is a champion athlete has this mental reserve. When everybody else quits, they keep going, and they actually will see a big mountain or a monster obstacle, and instead of talking to themselves about how that I can't do this or that looks really hard, they'll go and attack it. They'll not just go to the mountain, they'll see how fast they can run up the mountain. So definitely it's a little different mental framework. But back to what I was thinking internally when I watched this Instagram reel was that it doesn't start that way. It starts by a small step, by getting out there and saying, hey, I'm going to try this. I'm going to expand my limits. I'm going to go and do this 10K run, or I'm going to go and do this 20-mile mountain bike race. That's how I started. I thought the guys doing the Wilderness 101 in 1992 when I was a kid were crazy. These people were coming across the line covered with salt. I mean, vomit. Like, they were laying on the ground. Like, why do you do that to yourself, I mean, I did this fun race. It was hard as hell. I mean, it was 20 miles. It was enough to kill me. And I'm thinking these people they raced 100 miles. I'm never doing that, but that's respect, huge respect. Now, of course, I've done, I don't know. I don't even know how many. I've got my Leadville belt buckle here. I've got my Margie Gessick 100 belt buckle. And I got piles of these things now. I've obviously decided maybe it is for me, but it was not immediately, and I think that's what I hope that I can get that across to people is that, I don't have some like sick mental like fortitude that just came from nowhere. Definitely pretty tenacious, but through the years I realized, hey, the experience, I mean, it kind of feels good, when you achieve something you set out to do, you train for it, you prepare for it, you step up to the plate, shit gets crazy, but then you kind of pull it back in, and you kind of wrestle with the demons in your head, and then you come out. And a lot of the times, if you stay positive and you keep going one foot after the other, you'll make it. And damn, if that's not the coolest feeling ever, like winning a race is cool, but when you like overcome like this monstrous challenge and riding through the night and climbing up and over a mountain and you see the sunset or sunrise or maybe both. I mean, those are powerful and moving experiences, and yeah, it's addictive. It's really, really cool stuff once you try it.
I'm sure the first time you strapped on a mountain bike, you were probably not so much different than most of us, including me. When I take my mountain bike for a spin down at Skeggs or one of the places we have by San Francisco, and I'm doing like a 12-mile, whatever, little loop, the idea of doing like anything close to your distances seems so completely ludicrous. But at the same time, you build that pyramid brick by brick, and
Yep.
as you kept on, I think, relishing your time outside and discovering the sport, I think over time, your tenacity took you took you over some
Mm-hmm.
pretty gnarly gnarly long races. Just on that topic for a second, what is the most challenging aspect for you of these ultra endurance events? And yeah, on the flip side, what is it that's most, let's say, rewarding?
Most challenging. Well, I'd say just finding the next thing. I'm always searching for like the next project or like the next event I want to do. And yeah, I've done a lot of them at this point, and I'm not going to get, better than I was before. I'm 48 at this point. Like, I am lucky enough to perform at a very high level. So you have to have those goals. You have to have, some things on the calendar that get you excited. The most rewarding part, I think, is just seeing new places and meeting new people. Like, it's just super fun. It used to be like, this game of conquest. Like, hey, I can go to this race and I can go be on the podium, or I can, beat such and such. And now it's like, I mean, like going to Swiss Epic and riding those trails. I mean, that looks cool. It sounds really fun and just like a damn good excuse to go back to one of my favorite places in the world and ride some new trails and meet new people and just go and let it rip. So yeah, I mean that's definitely the best part. I mean there's a lot of best parts, but it's a challenge. Kind of like motivating. As you get older, you kind of will also. I like to say. When you get older, your aversion to risk will have you kind of in this constant contraction of what you're
Mm.
willing to do. Sort of like your comfort zone kind of gets a little bit tighter. Like, hey, do you want to go base jumping? I mean, if I said that to a 19-year-old me, and I'm like, is it a really good shoot? Sure. I'm like, I
Mhm.
mean, like,
Mhm.
whatever. I don't know. Whatever it was, I was like, sure, I don't have kids, it's like whatever. And then racing downhill on mountain bikes, like I'd race downhill. Now I'm kind of like calculated with my risks, but you do find that you kind of have this very slight contraction of what you're comfortable doing, skydiving or like pushing the limits
Mhm.
becomes so you have to fight that. You have to expand, and it's not this. I think aging gracefully was one of your topics, and it is not a passive exercise. I mean, you need to push on that bag to
Mhm.
stretch it. You need to fight for every bit of your mobility. You need to fight for every bit of your health, and you need to work for it because you're worth it. I see a lot of people just kind of give in. They say, hey, I used to be an athlete. I used to do this. And, now I've got this knee issue and it's holding me back. And it's so easy to just let go. It's so easy to let go and say, all right, you win. I say,
Mm.
fuck that. You know what? You
Mhm.
have, you have to do it for you. And that is, I mean, it's an act of it's an act of defiance, to be honest,
Mhm.
to stay in shape, to go to the gym. Yeah, I mean, like people see me in the gym, and I don't even know what they're thinking. Like, look at this old dude lifting weights. That's cute, Like I don't know what they're thinking as I like am lifting my like, you know, fairly modest weight. But if they realize that I rode 60 miles before I showed up, they might think of it a little bit differently.
Mm.
and it's all good. It's whatever. The way I see health and fitness and performance is very, very different than the way a lot of other people do. It's a continuum from zero to hero. And you decide if you slide this way or if you climb that way. And down here, is death the farther down you go. So your abilities and your physical performance and your cardiac performance and your resistance to chronic disease is down here on the slope, and then your performance in your race podium is up here on the slope. So the more you climb up that slope, the healthier you're going to be in the long run. Now, of course, I could keel next year for something else, but generally speaking, there's a lot to be gained there, and there are some outstanding examples. There was a guy that did we had an event last week called the Shenandoah Graveler. We had a 20 and a 50 and a 80 mile route, and a guy, Michael, he's 68 years old, did the 80 mile route. I mean, this guy comes out to our events, and man, I mean, it's not easy for him. He's got some physical issues, and he trains as much as he can when he can, but he comes out and he does these things, and I'm just like, that is awesome. You kind of just have to stay out of your own head a little bit, I think, and that's kind of my moral. I mean, it's easier said than done. I have my own doubts. You talk about my successes. I'll show you my 1,000 failures. You talk about the training that I've achieved or done that is impressive. I'll tell you about all the failed trainings, the knee issues, the low back issues. Just, I could just go on, but there's no point. I just move past that. I have no ACL in my left knee, but I'll run 3 miles. I'll lift weights. I'll toss a 250-pound tire sometimes. Like, I just do it. I just go out there and I respect my limits, And when I'm ripping downhill, I just have to, respect and, but I shred. I still I have a blast, and, love to ride hard and uphill and downhill. Just have to, treat the machine, really nicely. It's kind of like it's kind of like a classic car, I mean, are you gonna go and put the pedal down? Yes. You don't want to mess it up though, but you're gonna get out and open the pipes up, of course.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well, you are a natural born storyteller, sir, and
Thank you.
I will want to tease a couple more stories out of you before the show is over. The part you said about, yes, aging gracefully is a hashtag, so to speak, of my show, and I am conflicted about it because sometimes people think of that expression and people think of, hey, slowly kind of walking into the sunset, smiling or whatever. And I'm like, no. I like what you said a lot better, which is aging defiantly, which is kicking, screaming, all of that stuff. And another thing you said, which is right on point, is doing that, but with respect, knowing your limits, knowing your body, finding them through an act of trial and error, if I may. And then, treating that well-oiled machine with respect so that it continues to hum down the freeway as we want it to. Another thing that you said also resonates from this very amateur rock climbers perspective, which is the part about challenges and rewards. The part about continuing to push oneself after a couple of decades of rock climbing is something that I struggle with, and many other people listening to the podcast as well. Hey, when you know that you may never reach that peak of your physical prowess, how does one keep putting in the time in the gym, putting in the physiotherapy hours, putting in the long commutes to get to places like Bishop that we were just talking about, or France or whatnot. But on the flip side is just that it's the reward, right? It's what you said, which is the ability to go to those dreamscapes and be able to recreate,
Oh, it's a gift.
in
It's
it is
a wonderful thing.
such a gift, absolutely,
Yeah.
because you're so good at describing things. Let me ask you this. Right before we started recording, we talked about the Eastern Sierras, where Death Valley
Yeah.
is and Bishop is. And it's one of those things I try to tell people who have yet to immerse themselves in the outdoor sports world, is that feeling of nothingness, of
Hmm.
being such that little infinitesimal speck, like you said, in that big wide nature landscape, and that feeling of awe that generates. I mean, that is, I think, yeah, that is what I last for.
Oh, it's spiritual. It's there's no two ways about it. It's really a wonderful thing. And I think there's something about the exertion too. You know, when you're like pushing really hard and you're like thin on calories and you're right to the limit, and I mean like you have less sugar available for your brain, and
Mhm.
everything strips away and you kind of get in that trance. You know, it's kind of like this meditative state where the yogis get in this meditative state, which
Totally.
takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of process to get there, and a lot of like offloading of stress, responsibility, time even. You know, you're
Yes.
not thinking of the future. You're not embellished in the past or traumatized by the past, but you're whole and in the present in this immersed way, submersed way. That is like something that is invaluable for people to hit the reset button
Mhm.
and to truly, feel like unloaded.
Yeah.
It's such a really clutch thing to do. It's really wild. It's really neat.
I again can't agree more. I think when one is that juxtaposition of being pushed against one's limits, and how it kind of strips us down to our core in that unforgiving landscape, I think that combination is very
Yeah,
difficult to always find unless one has put in, the, I don't know, the effort, the miles, the practice. But when one get that, I mean, I think that creates that moment of zen. That
yeah.
is so incredible.
I think it's noteworthy though also that you don't need to have built up this massive base of fitness or
Hmm.
skill to do that. You can be, someone that is not got everything. And I've had these moments when I'm like recovering from my knee injury and I get out and I've like finally gotten to the point where I could walk, and it was equally as amazing, equally as eye-opening and brilliant to be amongst the
Mm-hmm.
flowers and the trees, and to finally, you know, just be able to move again. And so it's really neat that that could be a paddle, that could be a climb, that could be camping, in a crazy location. Just stepping out of the comfort zone.
I think that is such an excellent point, which can't be highlighted enough, that it is all about who one is at that particular moment. It doesn't matter what you might have been like the day before, what you might, what kind of history you might have had as a person, as an athlete, or whatnot. It is what the day is, the situation is, the moment is, and what you're encountering, and the kind of push you have to make to be able to experience that bit of, I don't know, fear that you're surmounting,
Yeah.
the risk that you are taking, the inner demons that you might be battling to even go out for a hike. But again, I think it's that wondrous landscape that nature offers us. I think that creates that moment of joy. You obviously, are doing so many things beyond your foundational career as a mountain biker. I do want to ask you this question, which I've been curious on, which
Mm,
is, what did you want to be as a youngster
an artist.
artist? Yeah. Okay. Okay. No surprise. What? Like still art, performance art.
Oh,
Um.
yeah, like illustrating, painting. Yeah, and
Okay.
I remember this picture of myself as like a 6 year old. My mom, she loved to paint. I mean, it was like
Mm,
her her therapy, her escape. She was a landscape artist, and yeah, I was also, I had a bit of talent there, and
mm,
was going to go to Maryland Institute of Art. Had an advanced placement
mm,
lined up there, and I just had attention deficit, and you know, for me, I knew I could do some creative things later in my career, but like I had the gift for riding at a high level, like a
mm,
good explosive capability and high VO2
mm.
max, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I've got to do this while I'm young. I've got to grab onto it and let it rip and see if I can make it. And yeah, it's just I got really got into it, obviously.
Yeah, you seem to have found this voice and this ability to express yourself that brings together your background as an outdoor athlete, as a mountain biker. I am curious, like, how fulfilling does it seem to you today? Maybe in some ways your career is coming like a full circle. When you were younger, you wanted to be an artist. You went,
Mm-hmm.
deep into the mountain biking world, and now you seem to be at this point of convergence.
Mm-hmm.
Wondering, how does it feel to be able to be in this place?
Oh, it's gratifying for sure. It's not without uncertainty. It's whenever you chart your own course or you take your own path. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of maybes. Um, but I'd have it no other way. I mean, it's just my style. Like I helped do some of the design for our logos for the Impossible route, and work with Chris Hull with Lift Creative. But I mean, that's just fun. It's just expressive. It's imaginative. And it kind of gets me thinking of like, what crazy place am I going to go to next? And to live to tell the story. That's, I think, a big fun part of it is that creative side. And when you're doing storytelling, whether it be written or video, um, or creating a route, I mean, that's a creative process. That's a process that I think is really, you know, such a great thing for people to do. You should create daily. And if it's writing a few notes in the morning, or a poem, or a
Mm,
sketch, or something like that, that's really expressive. And there's something just so important about that. And I agree that yes, there's a full circle there. I kind of am in my treadmill of doing that. I kind of forget that,
mm,
but it's really kind of neat, to have that creativity coming back. And when I wrote a lot of these episodes, they started out as just a piece of paper and a bunch of scribble. Like, hey, I got an idea. Let's recreate the 1926 Tour de France. They had this
mm,
crazy stage, and I read all into the history. Henry Desgrange, who started the tour, well, I mean, there's a little argument about that. But anyway, he was the promoter of the Tour de France, and his idea of a perfect Tour de France route would be one where there was only one finisher.
mm.
Like literally kill people off daily was his that's his idea of the perfect route. And so when he sent his scout out to recon this first traverse of the Pyrenees. The guy just almost died in a snowstorm hiking over this mountain pass, got caught in the snow, uh, got rescued, and writes back to Henry, it's going to be a perfect stage, 2 thumbs up. It was like really funny. And reading about this 1926 tour and how brutal it was. They weren't allowed to use gears, even though they had been invented 3 years before. He wanted everyone to use a single speed, which is just brutally hard. And it didn't really totally convey in that episode, but to try to share some of these stories and try to, shed some light onto why certain aspects of the sport are a certain way, or what's interesting about, the Pacific Northwest and the legend of Bigfoot. And, that's kind of some neat stuff to have as a sub thread. And it's a creative piece. And that's a part I like. That's what I get a kick out of.
This series, the Impossible Route, I want to hear how it all began. I watched some of it over the last week, and it is so well done. It is incredible storytelling backed by stunning vistas. And people on the show who are listening to the show or watching it on YouTube, you guys need to look for the Impossible Route and start watching it right away. I was pondering on the name and I wanted to ask you, and then you
Mm-hmm.
start talking about how this was named after that climb in Big Island in Hawaii, and all of a sudden I was like, I've only been to Hawaii once. I've only been to the Big Island, and I
Mm-hmm.
have actually gone up on a road bike to this volcano. I don't think I was doing anything like the kind of climb you were talking about, but I do remember it as being this really surreal experience where you're climbing on these on this road surrounded by lava, like dried up lava and like black ash, and it is
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah, it is so cool. So now I know where this show is coming out of. So this series, you teamed up with this other cyclist who
Mm-hmm.
is a vegan cyclist, which is awesome.
Yep.
But it seemed like this was a natural extension of your passion for adventure. I certainly encourage everybody listening to watch at least one episode of the series. What do you hope for somebody watching? Let's say it's somebody new to the sport. What would you want their biggest takeaway to be?
To join the ride. I want
Mm.
them to feel like they went on the ride. And I think
Mm.
that's a big goal of mine in producing each episode is I want people to feel like they have joined us and gone on this crazy adventure and seen this place, these little nooks and crannies and secrets. And that's a big achievement. And we get this quite a lot. Someone that rides and maybe their wife doesn't ride, but she really loves watching the episodes because they're exploratory, or they kind of stoke that interest and maybe going out and getting into it. That's just beautiful. If someone is genuinely like curious or more interested in riding and getting out and exploring, whether it be on foot or on a bike, that's my goal. It's just to inspire people to get out and move. And there's a beautiful world to explore out there. And I mean, I haven't scratched the surface. I've been to 30 countries. It is wild.
Well, I watched a little bit of the one where you guys go to France, and wanted, yeah, that got me thinking that, hey, if I want to go and ride around France, I better start getting on my bike right now and getting back in shape. So yes,
Yes.
yes, it's working. I think your message is being
Awesome.
delivered. Grandma, you took a bit of a risk starting this massive yet uncertain filmmaking project. What is doing this teaching you about yourself?
Well, I didn't go to film school, nor do I pretend to be a writer, nor am I a producer. I don't even know any producers. I didn't go to business school, so I don't know anything about running a business technically, according to the experts. But we've got a series with millions of viewers. People will come up to me in the airport, like just randomly, like, "Hey, are you that guy that does the like bike ride documentaries?" And it's just shocking. I think the lesson is that you don't need to be an expert to do things. You need to do them. You need to never give up, to step out. And if you want to build a dresser out of a log in your backyard, then do it. Go to YouTube, find a woodworking class, and get after it. And yes, your first one's going to suck. Your second one's going to be like kind of cool and with really nice knobs. And the third one's going to be like, wow, I found the perfect way to stain these things. Check this out. This is neat. Look at this. And that's what we're doing. You know, my YouTube was like just kind of a deposit for funny videos on my cell phone, right? That's how I started. And my personal YouTube is in the wheelhouse. So, not to confuse that with a higher level production that we do for the Impossible routes, but it's just a fun place to share videos. I'll just share like some funny stuff or a cool trip to a race or misadventure, bike camping, bike packing, whatever you want to call it. And it's that process. It's a process of storytelling, creating Instagram stories, taking people along the path from start to finish, explaining what it's like. So the lesson is just go out and do things. You don't need permission from anyone.
I can relate since I started this podcast at the beginning of the year, and then I started the adjacent YouTube channel. Again, like I'm at the first, or maybe somewhere between the first and the second step, where you just learning the very basics of like woodworking.
Yeah.
But the creative process is so fun because it feels like one is able to bring one's whole self, because this YouTube channel that I have, which is manifesting my vision of bringing the world together around outdoor sports and inspiring people to try to stay ageless. So it's super fun to just go through those steps. Jeremiah, many people dream of making a living doing what they love, right? Now you have done it in a sport which is as demanding as it is always also rewarding, like you related. From what I can sense, you're not a racer. You are also a filmmaker. You're an advocate. You work with brands. Was diversifying always part of the plan, or did it evolve a bit more organically as these opportunities came up? So would love you to speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely was organic. It started with just the passion to help people. In the case of coaching, I had some friends that said, "Hey, you had a great race. How did you prepare for that?" And I said, "All right, well, this is how I did it. It wasn't really like, an overnight success. I built a training plan, and I built a macro cycle with microcycles, because you have to rest, train, and then here's how I built in my intervals." And I shared that process. And they said, "That's amazing. That's really cool. All right. Well, can you help me build my calendar?" And she's, "Sure. I'll help you out. No big deal." Of course, for free, I'm there putting together a training plan for someone and helping them, get to the podium or their best performance. And, this went on. And especially if you're performing well, then people want to know what you're doing, right? And of course, because my job was performing, I was reading Journal of Applied Physiology. I mean, I was digging deep into human performance journals. I was quizzing the guys at the kinesiology lab at James Madison University. And if I went in for a VO2 max test or performance test, with the team, I was asking questions. And I mean questions on top of questions. And that really is just how I got into it. And then started to work with some high-level coaches, Hunter Allen, and I collaborated on some training plans and co-promotion of those training plans, and started to do individual coaching on a more professional level. And that really just was a natural extension of my interest. And yes, there's always a version of making your hobby into a career. And it might not be like being the next Alex Honnold or, rock star rock climber. It might
Sure.
be, hey, I'm going to guide people, on trips to my favorite area because I know it better than anyone else. Okay, well, they want to have a good experience. They want to know where the honey holes are and the sweet spots, right? Okay, well, all of a sudden you're guiding groups, and then you've got youth groups, and then you've got seminars, and then you've got equipment rental, and there you are. You're all of a sudden just walking down that path. But it takes a little experimentation for sure, and some things don't work. I'd say a majority of things don't work. If you want to be honest about it, like my first pitch for the Impossible route, I don't think anybody took me seriously. Like, they're like, you want to do what? And how? And really? I'm like, yeah. I mean, this is going to be a thing. It's going to be like a really cool documentary, Crickets. I mean, I got some meetings. I got some like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. But it just didn't really stick the first time or the second time or the fifth time. And it's kind of like a collaborative process. But, I think when you collaborate, when you're resourceful, and you keep trying to change the shape of it into something that works, it's where there's a will, there's a way.
Sure. Yes, you started small, and sounds like as things grew, you were able to realize maybe some of your gifts in putting all of these things together. I want to ask you, do you have a family?
Yeah. Wife and 2 kids.
Got it. So congratulations on that as well.
Thank you.
Now you are making a living doing, I should say, juggling all these pieces together, right? You're how do you do it all? Like, you are racing competitively. You're about to leave for another ultra endurance mountain bike ride, which I think you were calling it like your decompression, or maybe your break from every other things. So you're doing that. You're coaching. You're doing all of this storytelling with media. How do you manage really all these pieces? It sounds really challenging, but you're smiling, you seem laid back.
Yeah, it's I live in my calendar, so I mean, definitely, the Google Calendar has, time slots for each of these things, and I really have to manage my time. And I mean, that having been said, I was kind of deep in work, and my son, he wanted to go fishing, and it was a beautiful day. Finally, we had a lot of rain, but the sun was shining. I was like, I'm not going to get the time back. He's going to go off to college or whatever and be gone. I'm dropping what I'm doing. And you have to be flexible, and you have to be realistic with your time. I think that's an important thing. And training, I need to do that like first thing in the morning. Otherwise it gets just derailed, and if that's waking up a little earlier or whatever, then that's fine. But, there's a lot of synergy between the things that I do as well. So, for example, if I go out and do a YouTube video of climbing the, top 10 mountains in the Southeast, PJM Cycling and their gravel project, can be used to highlight those individual mountains to go explore, and can be used as content for people to go out and, fill their bucket list or check out a new place. And so there's a lot of synergy between the things. Some work well with others, Some work well with others, or maybe someone needs a coaching plan to go and do their PJM bucket list. And these things are all like part of that ecosystem. So it's a challenge for sure. Maybe I would be best to just be a bike coach and just hang up my competitive hat and my other consulting projects. But I like variety. I really do like, digging into a project, getting a project to completion, and then turning focus on something else that's rewarding. I don't know. It keeps it fresh.
If you were to go back, let's say maybe a decade, is there something that you would do differently as you have built out your career in and around mountain biking?
I would have bought that Apple stock. No, I seriously, yeah, I was like, all right, this is a practice investment here. I'm going to pretend to buy 100 shares of Apple, and then didn't. Anyway, no, not many regrets. Not many regrets. Maybe just, maybe some more investing. Obviously, like when you have these projects, there's certain risk involved with the projects and whether or not they're going to be profitable or not. And yeah, I mean, maybe just getting a business degree, because I think that like when you take a look at, the practical realities is that a lot of the things that I'm doing are highly speculative, and racing included. You're racing at a high level. Hey, you might win $5,000 this weekend, or you might get a flat tire.
Or worse, you could
you crash and break your arm. Yeah,
that's
totally.
Right.
It's the most volatile. I mean, I was worse than a junkie in Vegas. Like just going. All right, I'm gonna race. I'm gonna train even harder. I mean, it's a healthy habit, healthy addiction. But for sure, there's a lot to be said for diversification of investment. But that's a whole different podcast.
Well, certainly. I mean, you have. I mean, there's always room for more.
Yeah.
Very few people would say that they're very satisfied with their ability to manage different fronts. But it's always interesting to think back and, just maybe, if nothing else, as an intellectual exercise, ponder over some things that one could do differently or better. On that note, you have been able to continue performing at the top of your sport for many years, for a long time. Any secrets to your consistency that you haven't spoken about or alluded to already, where, let's say, you have been able to keep going and manage to craft this incredible career out of mountain biking, where maybe other contemporaries of yours were not?
Oh, absolutely. Many of the people that I raced with at the height of my like cross country racing career are no longer doing it, and a big part of that, I think, is keeping it fun. You have to have fun be an anchor to what you're doing. Having goals, but really relishing and enjoying, the process. Everyday training out there, is chasing that interval set or that mountaintop fun. And if it's not, make it more fun. That's a key to longevity. You have to keep it entertaining. You have to have your daily work be for you. It's an investment in yourself. It's an investment in your well-being, your health, and your confidence. I mean, you look at so many of the challenges we face in life, and we need a good skill set, a sharp tool box full of tools to deal with these things. And if you don't train it, you lose it. There's the rust all over your tools. So you need to, keep in the game. And then as far as competing at a high level, I'm pretty lucky to say it to the least, but I think that because I've been diligent with strength conditioning, that is probably one of the secrets. If there's a secret, I mean, it's not much of a secret. If you read about it, it's very well documented. The strength conditioning is so valuable for hormone health, for maintaining testosterone, human growth hormone, bone density, tendon, ligament strength, resistance to injury, muscle mass, all of these things. I mean, sound like the Huberman podcast now, talking about, some of the science behind it, but cognitive ability as well. So good mood, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful mood enhancer. And you get a good workout in, you come back and you're just like, yeah, I feel great. Definitely. I would almost say that it's not that my performance is because of some magical thing. It's just because I need exercise. And because that is my therapy, that is my, because it is my therapy and because I go to it daily, that's kept me fit.
How has your approach to training, how has it evolved over the years as you've gotten older, keeping in mind like the incredible demands that some of these bike rides put on your mind and body?
I'd say one of the bigger things that I need to pay attention to at almost 50 years old is recovery time. So I'm still able to perform at a very high level. The biggest hindrance, the biggest reason why people have deterioration of performance, of course, everybody wants to perform like they did when they were 30. The biggest reason I think that people have deterioration of performance is because they're not performing at the level that they want to in training. And that sounds like some sort of cryptic poem answer, but it's not. Take a very good look at what I said. They're not pushing themselves as fast in training. So if you're used to be able to do 400 watts for a 20-minute hill climb, then you need to be able to do 5x5 or 5x4 400 watts in training. You need to get good and on it. You need to push hard and have quality rest and keep the speed work, keep the power work, because that's the stuff that's hard to get. The endurance, I do one long ride a week, and wham, like, wow, that was amazing. My endurance is back. Well, it's just because I have all the capillaries and the mitochondria, and I don't need to train 30 hours a week. I need to do a very quality 15 hours a week or 10 hours a week even. And yeah, it does take a little longer to recover. And yeah, if I do a race last weekend and it's too hard, then this weekend I might struggle a little bit to be on top of it and recover. But if I am, really aware of that in my planning, I can excel. I mean, I can do some incredible performances. I did a local mountain. It's one of my favorite hill climbs. It's like 1,500 vertical feet, 400 plus watts for 25 minutes. And if you ever gotten on a stationary trainer and tried to crank out 200 watts, it's like, okay, you can see that is among my best performances, even at 30, even at 20. It's right up there. Not as good as my very, very best, but as good as some of my best ever seasons in my 30s. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, yeah, and I mean, the Monster Cross race, I won it in a sprint finish, against a young rider I coach who's a phenomenal sprinter, but it was like the correct savvy, not my best sprint ever, but perfectly applied at perfectly the right time at just, and I got the proxy finish to the bridge before the sprint. So it gave me like a little bit of a lead coming off this really skinny bridge, and it was game over. Like, and you can have those moments. But you have to give yourself that chance. And if you let go of the rope and you gain the weight and you lose the cardio performance or that aerobic performance, it is twice as hard to get it back at this age. I had COVID in October.
Sure.
Finally. I didn't have COVID all throughout all this masking and COVID and vaccines and all this stuff. And I'm like, woohoo, it's done. And I got so sick. I was in bed like dying. I'm like, what is this? And sure enough, me and my wife had COVID. And I was like, wow, this is no joke. Terrible. I thought my lung function would never come back. Like, it was a month of just like wheezing and just kind of like, I don't know, riding at 70%. 75%. And I was like, this is my new level. I guess I'm done. Just done. But yeah, to be able to put a really good few performances this spring and, just to feel healthy, feel strong, be able to go out and, ride across mountains. Like, geez, I'm so glad I stuck with it. I'm so glad I stayed patient. And it's, and I'd say that ageless athlete mentality, it's not all about defiance. There's definitely elements of acceptance and kindness to yourself in that you have certain abilities or certain aspects. And I stop and look at the flowers more than ever. Like, I'm taking pictures of birds and I'm totally immersed in the places where I am on those days. But then also I'm locked in on the days when I'm working. Today was one of those. I was doing some pretty hard intervals and I wasn't taking my camera out to, do much videography of the landscape. And yeah, it's, I've been able to strike a balance, and I think from balance comes all good things, whether it be in personal life or whether it be in athletics.
That could be the tagline for this podcast, which is from balance comes all good things. What you said about having that foundation, Jeremiah, that you have established over the years, where now you may not need to put as many miles, but need to take more rest, but also put in that quality of effort. I want to ask you, in a typical week, what is that that ratio of your training between time on the bike versus everything else that you need to do to support that? It could be, you mentioned, weights and strength training. Tell us what do you do with that? What do you do in the weight room? Tell us any other kind of mobility work that you do, stretching that you do. What keeps you in that fine shape to be able to perform?
I definitely have to do a little more stretching. There's no two ways about it. Like, things get stiff as you get older. Sometimes I wake up and I just I feel like I just played the Super Bowl the day before. And I didn't do much of anything, it's just a couple bike rides or whatever. It can be rough sometimes. But anyway, to have the routine of self-care, to do some activation before I go running, do some quad stretching, do some glute bridges, do some core, a little bit of yoga. And then, my typical week will be Mondays, usually recovery. I'm in the office. I'm working on projects, lining up travel, etc., social media. Then Tuesday, I'll go to the gym first thing in the morning. Then in the afternoon, I'll go do the Tuesday night fast ride, or I'll go do some intervals, maybe just an hour and a half, nothing like too crazy in duration, but I get after it and I'm doing some good high intensity work. But that also gives me a good 6-hour window in the middle of the day to get some office tasks done. And then, try to spend the evenings with family, family dinner, hang out, take the dog on a walk, go out for tacos with my son, whatever it is. keeping those things in balance. And then Wednesday is usually my long day during the week. It's not super long, but I'll get out for like a 4 hour ride with, good steady zone 2, zone 3 climbs. Thursday is back to some intensity, but a little bit shorter, more speed oriented or skill oriented. Doing some core work or plyometrics. Again, during the season, it's not really too gym intensive. It's more like maintenance. And then, Saturday I'll do a tune-up workout, 1 hour, just get on the gas a bit, open up the engine, Sunday race. So it's really like this in-season type of training volume and intensity. It's not super intense. To give you an idea, for those of you that are on Training Peaks and use the training stress score, for example, it'd be like in the 400 to 600 range during race season for most weeks. Every fourth week, I need to offload and really take a real step back from training. And then in the preseason, I'll do 600 to 1,000 TSS. So I'll do some big builds. And that building is important to really get the form to climb up. Because if you just do the intensity, you only get so fit. And then it just kind of plateaus. And that's what most athletes are experiencing, to be honest. So many athletes that I know are running at 80%. But they're like, but I've been doing really hard work. I've been doing the sprints on Tuesday, and then Saturday I do threshold intervals. It's like 4x6. But if you don't do that ramp at the end of the base season, and you don't build that engine, you don't build the cardiac output until it's beating like a drum. Like that's the base. That's the diesel engine that just is.
Are you talking about, is it the zone 2 stuff that you're talking about? That it's
absolutely.
It is fascinating. In rock climbing, for example, like I experienced that over the last decade, where hit that plateau, exactly what you're talking about. 80% can't get beyond certain grades, and they kept talking about, in the climbing world, they have this, they call it arcing, whatever, anaerobic restorative capillarity training. It is doing like really, really low intensity work, which doesn't tire you out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people seem to scoff at, a lot of climbers scoff at that. They're like, hey, I'm not even getting fatigued. Like, I'm not even getting any lactic acid build. Like, am I doing anything? But it seems like this is validated across different sports, where it is, sounds like it is important even in mountain biking to be able to continue doing like low intensity, but those kind of blocks to be able
makes
to.
Sense. The couple times I've gone rock climbing, like I was like, whoa, they're not just like hanging out there. I mean, there's a lot of muscles all working at the same time. And when you're in a crux move, I mean, you're burning. Like, I mean, your heart's racing and you're really breathing heavy. Like, I didn't really realize how much cardio it would take, for these like crux sections. And no, there's no two ways about it. And you look at the motorsports, the drivers, for IndyCar, NASCAR, Valtteri Bottas with F1 does a ton of cycling. They all do a ton of cycling. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Those guys are on the bicycles a lot.
They're just, I mean, when they're racing, their heart rate's just kind of pegged at zone 3, just like bracing and braking and just fighting the G-forces the whole time. Yeah, and they have to be able to handle the heat. And there's one thing that cardio does for you. I mean, you're able to handle lots of work, a lot of heat, a lot of stress, and the fresher you are at the end of competition, whether it's rock climbing or a downhill ski run, if you still feel fresh, for the last quarter of the match or the climb or whatever, I mean, you are way ahead. I mean, that's like a cheating level advantage. So, no, it's pretty neat. It's neat to learn about other sports too, and how the human performance engine, mentally and physically, all have to come together. It's neat stuff.
Yeah. Any other, obviously you shared so much about how to stay in like let's say, consistent shape over the years. Any other advice you would give to, let's say, more seasoned athletes on how to maintain their physical and mental edge?
Yeah, I think doing a little bit of fasted training is good.
Mm.
I wouldn't say a lot. It kind of got into vogue with cycling for a while there. But the one thing that is consistent is that, as you get older, you have metabolic efficiency. You're very efficient with calories. I mean, my son is eating it right before bedtime, like a giant bowl of cereal. He just waffles. I mean, if I ate like that, I'd be so fat. Um, so like for us, hitting that reset button, and it'd usually just be like easy spin on Monday morning, like first thing, like have my coffee, get on it. It's just so good because it keeps your insulin really steady. It kind of gets everything to hit the reset button, your digestive system, and then of course having good vegetables. I mean, it's, we get just inundated with processed food, and someone orders pizza and your friends have a Super Bowl party or whatever. Just like the availability of calories in the modern world is not right. We can just go into a store and there's 1,000 types of cereal. Like it is, our bodies have evolved over tens of thousands, if not millions of years off of finding stuff at random, saving like little bags of nuts and occasionally getting lucky and scoring a dead animal. Like there were times of gaps between food, and it was actually like consistent. You wake up, there's no food. What do? You got to go find it. What are you doing? You're working out before you eat. It is consistently something that I just, we kind of get in America, especially. It's like social eating. It's lunch break. Everybody goes to lunch and eats together. It's such a social thing. So I need to even remind myself and get back into my routine, because I used to just be like a Monday thing. Just get up and just kind of get that good feeling. Hit the reset button. Hydrate. Have some whey protein. Have a good breakfast when I come back. But yeah, it's one of those things I think, for masters athletes, it's important. And increasing your protein intake in general is another really big thing, because our ability to digest and absorb protein is different as we get older. It gets much more difficult to absorb the protein we do ingest. And so it's, probably 3 nights a week I'll have like some whey and casein protein before bed. And that really gives you something to work on and stay anabolic throughout the night. So after races or after strength conditioning or after like sprint workouts, that is another part of my routine I think is really effective.
So the days you're racing or you're working extra hard, you make sure that you take in extra protein. Is that correct? And you normally do that with whey protein. Are any other hard-won strategies for nutrition or and even maybe supplementation that you think are helping you?
Whew. Well, I don't know how much it helps, but I have my krill oil in the morning. It's good for cardiovascular health, and it's omega-3s. I have a little bit of high cholesterol naturally. So yeah, I have red yeast rice and CoQ10 before bed. I typically don't have very many supplements. I really think most supplements are a sham, and they don't do a whole lot. So yeah, I mean, I'd really try to eat like it's medicine. I think Steve Jobs, one of the things he said is eat like it's medicine, or you will eat medicine like it's food eventually. So I definitely, try to eat healthy. It's a battle, when kids have all this stuff around with like the chips and the candy and like, I'm not too bad on candy, but when it comes to cookies and stuff like that, I need to like just not look at it. Just focus on, good quality nutrients and a little bit more protein for sure. If you ever check out Asker Jugendroop's webpage or Instagram, it's called My Sports Science. Highly recommend checking that out. There's some great articles on sports nutrition, sports performance. Really cuts to the chase on a lot of high level academia. The sports journals and things like that are very difficult to read at best. But he puts together some very concise infographics. Yeah, I mean, you need to increase your protein almost 20 to 25% as you get over the age of 40. It's crazy. But yeah, it's true. You just don't have that same nitrogen balance. And yeah, for whatever reason, you just don't process protein the same way when you get older. And that's a big part of the reason why folks in the nursing home, they're muscle wasting and they're very thin. And they really need to keep on top of the strength conditioning, but then also the nutrients necessary to stay in shape. And yeah, so far so good. How long can I keep it going? I have no idea. But I tell you what, stay tuned.
Got it. So, got it. So, to avoid like sarcopenia, to not waste away, one needs to keep the physical activity up, but one also needs to eat more carefully, which includes paying some extra focus on protein intake. Get that. Closing the end of our lovely chat, a couple of final fun questions.
Yeah.
What could be a significant habit, routine, or behavior, Jeremiah, that has most impacted you in, let's say, the last 5 years?
Well, I'd say that planning my training, very significant. After the impossible routes came and, I started to do a little bit less racing. I was very busy, doing all the behind the scenes for that. And I was like, well, I'm just racing for fun at this point. And so I was going without a training plan. And, you got to have a plan. You got to commit. And you have to have like at least a few days of the week where you're committed to doing some tough work, and locking in, clocking in. If you have that like on your calendar already, your friend's meeting you at the gym or on the curb, it's over. You're gone. You're out the door. It's so much easier. But then if you wake up and you don't have a plan, it's raining, it kind of looks a little rough out there. It looks a little cold. Maybe I'll make some more coffee and finish this spreadsheet. Yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. A little devil on your shoulders like, yeah, you could take the trash out. You could go and vacuum the basement, and then you start having all these inner discussions about how you're going to chicken out, So easy to go just completely lose it. So you just got to be like, nope, that's what I'm doing. Here's my plan. Wrote it all out last week. See? Tuesday gym, Tuesday afternoon sprint workout, Thursday threshold workout, Saturday long, Sunday skills. It's already written. I committed to it. I'm doing it. There's no discussion.
Awesome.
So that's the big. Yeah. So that's the big. That's probably one of the bigger ones that I've learned, and of course, just being in the gym, doing the gym work. It's been really good for me. I used to hate the gym. I used to hate it.
Yeah.
Not kidding. And now I kind of like it.
It's actually funny. I used to enjoy going to the gym in my 20s, lifting weights and all of that stuff. But the older I get, the more I just want to do my sport, and the harder it is for me to convince myself to go and do all the other supplemental work. Obviously, you inspire many people. You inspire me, Jeremiah. Who inspires you?
Oh, geez. To say, there are a lot of inspirations. Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, one of the most inspiring individuals. I think because, obviously he's a high-level competitor, but, I think in many ways he's just a clever jokester and really playful personality, a fun personality, someone that just will get the business done, and when it comes to doing the job is like very on point, but then also is like make jokes and poems and create and write, and was also very outspoken for what he believed in. And I think that's he's a very kind person, and in a violent sport. So there's a number of really good examples. I think some of the others, on the sporting side, geez, let me think. I'll think of a few.
It doesn't have to be the sporting side. Just could be maybe
Yeah,
one more inspiration from any sphere.
from any sphere. I'd say Helen Keller. I'd say just when you have so many challenges in your life to continue and to keep on growing and sharing and inspiring others. I don't have it as easy as people think I do. It is a struggle each day, but we all have our challenges. And when someone has that many challenges, yet they change the world, they are out positively impacting others. I think that's about, it could be anywhere in the spectrum, but you will have found purpose in your life if you make someone else's day better. You could be, at any station, any post, any place. But my heroes are not kings or billionaires. They're normal folks that decide to take a little effort to make someone else's day better. They're that they're a hero. There's a hero to someone in everyone that does something good. So
I love that. Yeah, I read about Helen Keller when I was a kid, and it left a deep impression on me. One question I want to ask you that I forgot earlier, which is, you create beautiful stories over social media, which it is, part of the work you do as well. I have this love-hate thing with social media. My activity online was fairly passive. I did not have Instagram on my phone, but since I started, I guess this new thing as a creative, I have to get back on all the channels. And I'm finding that it's these channels are so addictive that it is hard to sometimes stop what I do professionally and avoid all the other pull it has for me to keep giving my time to it. I'm wondering, how do you manage sort of this pull of social media?
Sometimes you do better than others, but it's like working on the edge of a black hole. Like, you're like on the edge of the black hole, like trying to build a satellite, and you're working on it, but then all of a sudden the gravity just gets you, and you're like, and then an hour later you come up for air, like, wow, I'm thirsty. I don't even know where time went. I mean, I don't remember any of it. It was just a bunch of like bike videos and car videos and whatever. It's just like, it's a noisy space for sure. It's also, it's a dreamscape of like, junk that is like, basically it's like if you're hungry, don't go to the candy shop. You know what I mean? It's just going to rot your teeth. And a lot of the content is just, it's mostly junk, it's mostly just things you won't remember anyway. So I say don't spend a lot of time in there. Check on what your friends are doing, maybe a cool event that's coming up, but set a time limit. And I try to just say, all right, I'm going to go respond to my messages, check my, comments, drop a post, and then get out of there. And that's actually when I do the best, is when I make the commitment that it's a deposit only scenario. So if I like make something, then okay, then I can scroll for a few minutes afterward and check it out and look at all the other stuff that's on there, stay engaged. But yeah, it's not easy to keep up with. Also, just having a little bit of like consistency with it, that does seem to help me. Is like having like a plan, and I don't know.
Do you manage it all yourself, or I don't know if you
Yeah,
outsource? Okay.
yeah, for the most part. Sometimes I'll have some stuff that is sponsors will share, or they'll help put together the cards or promos. I got a friend of mine that does some of the sort of like infographics, like if I do a training chat or something like that. But a lot of it's just my posting, a lot of it's sort of haphazard. Hey, we went and rode to ice cream, or I do a big ride. My best social media game is when I have a really awesome ride. I'm like stoked up, and I'm really like happy. I get back and I'm like, whoa, that was crazy. And this is
Right.
this place. And then we did this. And then we jumped in the river. And then the snake
Mm.
came out. That's when I'm in the mode. And sometimes I struggle with it. I'm like, hey, I've got to post something on social media and I don't want to. And I have like 50,000 photos. Like I have a lot of stuff I could be posting on there. And I don't really look good in that photo. I don't know. I should just post and just stop caring. I think that's my best bit of advice to people is like, it doesn't really matter that much, right? People are going to find something else next week and the next day. So like, just be out there and, just drop in, just start dropping stuff in there and, keep it moving. I don't know.
It's
Maybe.
it's a few minutes ago you said you shared something valuable that Steve Jobs shared about making us, let's say, better humans. I wonder what kind of reflection, ironically, he might have on the current state of humanity's obsession with social media, with the time they spend on the device that he helped create. I just wonder, what is he thinking when he looks down from the heavens above on the
Jeez.
monster that he has created with
So it's Oppenheimer moment. It's like, Will, that didn't exactly go the way I was hoping it would. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's connected people. I have a
yeah.
friend in India. I would never have this friend if it was not for social media. We just wouldn't have connected. And then it's, brilliant in a lot of regards. And yeah, I think it's sort of like, it's hard to blame the tool maker, you know, for the creation. And social media is sort of like a creation on a creation. And, but for sure, it's something.
Those were some great thoughts on social media indeed. I have kept you long enough. Where can people find you online? How can people learn about what you're doing?
Well, if people want to keep tuned in, I definitely post on Instagram. Jeremiah Bishop Rides is my Instagram handle. You can also find me on Facebook. For training, you'll find Bishop Training on Facebook if you're curious about performance, how to perform better. And then for the impossible routes, you can go to theimpossibleroutes.com. And then you can also check out the Instagram page we have for the Impossible Routes, which has a lot of the behind the scenes stories, videos, clips. Yeah, just fun photos, things that we've shared over the years there. And yeah, I guess the best sort of place you could also go to my website, jeremiahbishop.com. It's a little antiquated. It needs to be redone, but has like links to my Strava and to all these other social platforms as well. So
We will be sure to add those links to the show notes. It is still light outside where you are in the East Coast. I'm sure you have some fun outdoor plans lined up for this evening. Thank you again. Helen Keller and Muhammad Ali. Well, those were my inspiration as well. Gosh, this was such a great conversation with Jeremiah Bishop. He is such a legend. He really proves that, with passion, with resilience, and a touch of defiance, you can take your life in so many amazing directions. He shared great insights today. His approach to training and recovery, to his tips on nutrition and staying mentally sharp. He reminded me that age is, just a number. And it's never too late to keep pushing and get past whatever stories you are telling yourself and to, yeah, just keep chasing those limits. I loved his emphasis on finding joy in the process and on staying curious. If you're feeling inspired to get out there and ride, to try something new, or just to embrace the journey of getting older, I encourage you to check out Jeremiah's work. You can find him on Instagram, on Facebook, and his website, which we will link in the show notes. But more than anything else, you really should go and watch The Impossible Route on YouTube. It is a fantastic piece of filmmaking. Thanks again, Jeremiah, for joining us on Ageless Athlete. Until next time, keep exploring, keep moving. And, if you need to move to that beautiful mountain town to be able to stay close to your sport, make those plans. Life is short and it's not too late. So until next time, go out and ride some. Enjoy this week, this day. Stay ageless, my friends.